Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in again with Understanding the 12 Steps. Today we are specifically looking at step 9. Now, step 9 is a forgiveness step. It's also an action step where now you have to go and do something. But what is that something? Well, the dynamics of step 9 says, may direct amends wherever possible to such people, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, there's three aspects of that step. You have the direct amends, then you have indirect amends, and then you having a living amends. The idea of the direct amends is that you are going to them personally. Whatever person that may be, you're going to go to them personally. You're seeking forgiveness. You're taking complete responsibility for whatever it is that you've done wrong. Now, the idea of this is that you're cleaning your side of the street, right? The indirect amends, that takes place when you absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that now injury might happen to the other person or to yourself in the process of seeking to make those amends. So the indirect amends is you are seeking to repair the damage in an indirect way in some other kind of a fashion or a form that you're going to do. And sometimes it might even be that you do not know. You know you've done something wrong, but you have no way of finding the person. Could even be maybe that person has passed away. So maybe you're going to make amends to them, say through doing something for a family member, their family member. But a sponsor is going to be able to help you sort that all out in the best way to proceed forward with making those amends, whether it ought to be direct or indirect. Now, either way, whether it's direct or indirect, the ultimate goal is that you begin to make a living amends. The idea of a living amends is you stop and you go a different direction. Your life reflects somebody different than the person that they once knew, and that person would be you. What kind of person were you when you were involved in your disease of addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or the things that it is that you did? When you're thinking of, say, mental health challenges, think about those times in which maybe that you were in the depth of despair, and then you expected somebody to do something for you or do something for you, and by them doing that, it might have caused harm to their family. One example could be you expected them to come to your house, but that would mean that they had to neglect their own responsibilities of their job. Maybe they had to leave their job to come to your house, and leaving their job meant that they weren't going to get paid for the time that they left because they were on hourly and they weren't on salary, or they had to take sick time, or they had to take vacation time. Maybe it affected their children, which meant now that their children had to stay at the babysitters longer, or maybe their children then had to go without lunch that day because they were attending to your needs. And I'm sure that person cared about attending to your needs, but it had a ripple effect of what was happening with them in their life. And now it's necessary for you to go and make an amends with them. And the living amends is now you're not going to call them, say, during work hours and expect them to do things that would then affect their life in a derogatory way. That derogatory way it could be financial, could be relational, but whatever that looks like, that's what you're doing. Now, in step 9, it's also about 3 R's, and there's also a fourth one that sums it all up. First one is restoration, then resolution, and then restitution, right? The idea of this process is in restoration, meaning you're bringing something back to its former state. Thinking about even like those who may be interested in restoring cars. You're going to restore it back to the state that it was originally in, or maybe even a better state. How many of you, when you've gone to make amends to somebody, oftentimes it actually improves the relationship and makes it better than it was even before? So never underestimate the power of making an amends. And remember that the I'm sorry's probably by this point they're just not going to do it. Think about the boy who cried wolf. And it was so many times that the I'm sorry is not going to work anymore. But restoration will work. Then you have resolution. Well, as people in recovery, you and me in recovery, that means you're likely to have things that plague you, disturb you in some way. So finding a resolution means coming up with answers and solutions and putting them to rest. Now, the idea of putting them to rest, I'm guilty of this, and I believe that you are too, is that how many of you, your past haunts you, and even when you've received forgiveness, you still beat yourself up for the past of the things that it is that you've done. You haven't fully grasped a hold of the reality that that's not who you are anymore. That's what's called living in the past, being haunted by the past, being plagued by the past. Once you have been forgiven, you have been forgiven. One thing to remember is, remember in step 8, you made that list, and it was really important to put yourself on that list. How are you making amends to yourself? See, because when you get to the resolution part, that's going to reveal whether or not you actually have made amends to yourself. So if you're having a difficult time with resolution, that might be something to take a look at and actually have a discussion with your sponsor, with your counselor, your therapist, in any kind of a meeting or a group setting. Just do not ignore it, because see, things like this just don't go away on their own. You have to attend to them in order for resolution to happen. Ignoring them just means they're going to continue to foster, and they're going to continue to come up in your life in a derogatory and a negative way. Then you have restitution. Well, restitution is exactly what it says. That could mean a financial amends. When you seek to make restitution, maybe you owe fines and you owe court money. Maybe for some of you men or women, there's back child support. And yes, is it uncomfortable that you have to pay it? Yes. Is it something that you maybe not want to pay? Well, sure, because that creates a financial hardship. But restitution means that you are going to take care of it. You're not just going to say, I'm sorry, but you're going to follow it up by your actions, and you're going to make that wrong a right. Now, ultimately, when we think about the 9th step, it's also, when you bring it all together, it's about reconciliation, right? It's about reconciliation. You've been separated from. Now, the idea of the, steps 1, 2, 3, you're working on your relationship with God. 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're looking at your insides, and you're looking at your character defects, and you're wanting God to do something within you. By the time that God has done what it is you desire within you, and you've made this list, now you're going out and you're seeking to have restoration and reconciliation with people. Hopefully you've already had that restoration and reconciliation by this time with God, and now you're growing in your relationship with him rather than having that absolute broken relationship. See, because you can't have experienced restoration and reconciliation if it's still broken. If once you've experienced restoration and reconciliation, it's no longer broken. Now, when you look at Matthew 5, verses 23 and 24, in a nutshell, this is what it says. It says, if you go to the altar to offer your sacrifice to the Lord, present your offering to the Lord, and therefore remember that your brother, now that's not just male, female, it's not male, it's male and female. You recall, comes to mind that someone has something against you. They're angry at you, they're resentful towards you, whatever's going on. What Scripture says is, before you present that offering to the Lord, to go and be reconciled with that person first, and then come back and offer your offering, give your offering to the Lord. So when you know that somebody has it, it's not that God doesn't want you to give him the offering that it is that you have. See, but God also desires restoration and reconciliation with one another. And why is that so important? Because just as much as you are God's prize, possession, creation, you were created in his image, so is everybody else. See, God is all about relationships. He wants you to have an amazing relationship with him, but he also wants you to have incredible relationships with other people, which means he's going to set aside what it is he desires with you in that moment. So you have to learn that other people are just as important. See, if they're important to him, he wants you to know that other people have to be important to you. Your love and your relationship with God will be reflected in how well it is you interact with and you're in relationship with other people and those around you. You cannot love God and hate people. You cannot love God and not seek to be forgiven or even extend forgiveness. Your relationship with other people is what will reflect the relationship that you have with God. When you look at Proverbs 28, verse 13, this is what it says. Whoever conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will obtain mercy. So many of us, I know you, me, all of us, we seek to conceal, we seek to run, we seek to hide, we seek to deny. We don't want to have to look at, we want to bury. A friend of mine once said that some of those things that we seek to bury have concrete slippers on them that we put at the bottom of the ocean to never be brought up again. But my friends, that is what will destroy you and kill you. Denying it, ignoring it, burying it, it'll tear you up. Bringing it to the light, the temporary pain that you feel and uncomfortability that you feel in the moment will provide to you ultimate, endless, unsurmountable immeasurable amount of blessings. There is blessings in the uncomfortable, but you have to press into it. Now I'm going to close with this scripture right here, because the idea of reconciliation is a mission. Reconciliation is a mission. Actually, reconciliation is a mission that encompasses all the 12 steps. First is reconciliation with yourself and with God. When you hit bottom, you are a broken human being. It's not a bad thing, but you are broken. I was broken when we recognize the depths of our despair. So we reconcile ourselves with ourselves in order to reconcile ourselves with God. Then we reconcile ourselves through God with other people. And it sums it up. Paul sums it up, the Apostle Paul, in 2 Corinthians 5, starting in verse 16, and it goes through verse 21. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this to you. It says, so from now on, we regard no one from a worldly view. That means you have to look at people the way God sees them, not the way the world sees them as just another human being who is either superior or inferior to you. You are looking at them the way God sees them. It says, though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. They regarded Christ. What Paul is saying is, see, Jesus walked the earth and they viewed him as just a man and a great teacher, but they no longer view him from that worldly perspective. Although he was fully man, he was a great teacher, he was so much more. He was the Messiah. He is the Messiah. He's the one who went to the cross so that restoration and reconciliation could even take place. So now they understand that and they know that. Goes on in verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. That's you. In Christ, you are a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. By the time you get to step 9 and you're ready to go and restore broken relationships, you have to know by this time you are a new creation in Christ. The old is gone, the new has come, and now you're making that evident by going and seeking to make amends. I guarantee you, when you go to make amends, most people will be surprised. Even just their jaw will drop and they will be utterly amazed. Number 1, that you were willing to do it. Number 2, that you actually did it. And number 3, that now they can see a transformation happening within you. Why? Because you're a new creation. Then it goes on and says, all this is from God. All of it. It says, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. See, here in Set Free, we have a ministry of reconciliation. Our goal is that you live the best life that you can live through Jesus Christ. Might not be the richest one according to the world's measure, but once you have the richest one according to God's measure versus the world's measure, because you may have nothing according to the world, but when you have Christ, you have everything. And when you have Christ, you will seek to live at peace with all people. It goes on, it says, he gave us the ministry of reconciliation, that God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ, not counting people's sins against them. How is it that a God who is love does not count sin against a people who are plagued by sin? It is sin. You struggle, you have challenges, the roller coasters and the highs and lows of this life. We are forever changing every single day in our thinking, our feeling, our emotions, our actions, how we treat one another. But God is the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, forever. And he, through Jesus Christ, is reconciling every single person, the entire world, everything in it, back to himself. And he's given you the ministry of reconciliation as well, right? Goes on, and it says, we are therefore ambassadors, Christ's ambassadors. And even before that, it says, he has committed to us the message. So we have a ministry and we have a message, right? That's why we have so many cliches. The cliches are a message. One of the cliches, keep coming back. Another cliche is, you can't keep what you have unless you give it away, right? How about this one? If you forget where you came from, you will be destined to not only go back to it, but to continue to repeat it. There are cliches because that's the message. We have a message in Set Free that is built upon hope, encouragement, love, and prayer. But you cannot skip step 9 and think that you're right with yourself and right with God if you don't seek to become right with those around you. And that's what the amends is about. And as you're Christ's ambassadors, it's as if God is making his appeal through us, through you. God wants to work through you to reach other people. You might be the only message of the gospel of Jesus Christ that somebody may see, hear, or experience. Do not miss out on an opportunity, and that can happen through the process of making amends. Paul goes on and says, we encourage you on Christ's behalf to be reconciled to God. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. This step 9 is a crucial step because it is the one that is going to reflect how well you have worked steps 1 through 8, how honest you've been through steps 1 through 8, because it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to get right with yourself. It's uncomfortable to get right with God. But it's a whole game changer to now have to stand in front of another human being and make amends and seek to repair what was damaged as a result of your words, your actions, the damage you caused, the destruction, the pathways of destruction. It's not easy to have 2 eyeballs. And not only that, when you're talking to God, oftentimes, you can close your ears off and not have to hear what it is he has to say. We seek ways to do that. It's really difficult to do that when there's another human being standing in front of you and they're audibly giving you a response. So we oftentimes want to run away from that because accountability is hard. Acceptance for past wrongs that you've done is hard. Demonstrating that you have a changed life, you want immediate and instant. And when you make amends, that may not come immediately and instantly. That will come through the living amends. They're going to have to see it before they believe it. They're going to have to see the life change in you. And that comes more with just one day of saying you're sorry. It might come with months. It might even come with years. But remember, this is not about how long, and this is about God's timing and not your timing. And it's not waiting until the time is perfect before you make the amends. It's getting out there and doing it, right? Getting out there and doing it. Do not hesitate on that. Remember, God made Christ, who had no sin, knew no sin, become sin, so that you and I can be reconciled with him, but even beyond that, reconciled with one another. And that's step 9. That's the idea of making amends. Now, of course, you don't want to do more damage and cause more destruction in the process of it, which is why it is the idea of whenever, except when to do so would injure them or others. You're going to need to be able to consult your sponsor, consult someone else, but do not seek somebody to justify and validate your will. You have to seek the right person who's going to give you the honest answer and lead you down the correct path. There are, countless people that will co-sign what it is your will is. You know it, I know it. Seek out the person that won't co-sign, because that's where the healing and the recovery takes place. And when you're seeking true, genuine healing and recovery through this process, you want the people around you that will speak truth into you and hold you accountable and not validate your will, but help you along in seeking to do God's will. But next week, we're going to go ahead and we're going to tackle step 10. And I want to thank you for joining us again. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Love to have you follow us along here on YouTube. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great day, a great week, and I hope your relationship with the Lord and with others continues to grow.